I'm John Kraft, this is Robert Bug.
Yep.
We're going to talk about airports, various airports around the great state of Illinois. We have looked at several airports. The Edgar County Watchdog has looked at several airports, and one of them being Whiteside Airport. That belongs to the county of Whiteside, and the issue right now is with the Whiteside County Airport, grant insurance, alleged grant insurance violations, and they have an attorney representing the airport that they're paying. They can't do that. The airport belongs to the county. The state's attorney is a statutory legal advisor for that airport. They just don't believe that yet. Kankakee Airport, we dealt with that a year, 2 years ago, year and a half maybe. They had a commissioner that basically disqualified himself because he participated in awarding a contract to himself. He resigned from the board.
It was a roof thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's perfect. He resigned from the board, but you know, the thing is, once the conflict was over, the county board reappointed him to the airport authority, which is fine. The conflict is over, there was no more conflict. When a new position opened up through somebody else either resigning or their term was up, they reappointed that person to the Kankakee Airport Authority, which is fine. Okay, so then we looked at Rock Island Airport Authority, Springfield Airport Authority, DuPage Airport Authority, Vermilion County Airport Authority. And what did we find in those?
We found that the people serving on those airport authorities and those airport boards weren't eligible to be on that board.
Wow.
That's not airports.
Yeah, there was one in, yeah, and we even left one out. We can add Bloomington Airport Authority.
So how many is that total now?
There were 5 airport authorities that had people sitting in a leadership position in an appointed commissioner seat that were disqualified from serving. In Bloomington, the commissioner that shouldn't have been there went ahead and resigned. And Springfield Airport Authority, one of them cured the conflict by resigning from the trustee position. The other guys still thinks he can serve, and it's
Amazing.
pretty bad when a minister or a reverend can't seem to read and comprehend state law.
That's a lot of airports. That's a lot of people.
DuPage Airport Authority,
Another
the
one.
guy cured that one by resigning from his,
Another one.
I think he was on the West Chicago Planning Commission or something to that effect. I could have been stating the wrong commission, but he was on something with West Chicago. Rock Island, that guy resigned after a lot of arguments and back and forth about how he wasn't violating any laws, and he must have reread the.
How can there be so many airports? How can there be so many people on these committees and airports that just don't belong?
Well, the common denominator is IDOT, Division of Aeronautics.
Oh, I've heard about those people before.
Speaking of IDOT, Division of Aeronautics, okay, so before we go on to IDOT, the Vermilion County Airport had 4 commissioners out of the 5 that we alleged were disqualified. 2 of them didn't even live in the taxing authority. All 4 of them worked for, were appointed to, or were elected to other offices in local governments.
Exactly. One was even outside the taxing authority.
Yeah, let me read the Airport Authority Act. No person shall be appointed to the Board of Commissioners of any airport authority who is a member of the governing body or an officer or employee of a municipality, a county, or any other unit of local government. Pretty self-explanatory.
How can it be? I mean, isn't anybody, Division of Aeronautics, is that what you said, the Illinois Division of Aeronautics?
Yeah. So that was the Airport Authority Act. Steve Foster is an alderman in Danville.
Yes.
No person may be appointed to an airport authority who is a member of the governing body of a municipality. Danville's a municipality. He's an elected alderman. That's a member of the governing body of a unit of local government, which is a municipality, which is Danville. But he thinks that's funny, and he has no intention of resigning.
That was the Illinois law you just read.
Yeah, David Keitzman, he works for Danville Community College. He's a vice president of student services. Again,
He should be able to read the law.
an officer or employee of a municipality, county, or any other unit of local government, which is a community college within the Airport Authority Act. Now, there's an exemption if you are employed by a school district in a county of less than 40,000, then you can also be a commissioner. That's the only exception. William Ingram, he was a commissioner on the Village of Catlin Planning Commission. He resigned from the Village of Catlin Planning Commission. However, there's other issues with him. We'll talk about that later, but it deals with his contract for the hangar space in the name of a business that we believe was dissolved before they even signed the contract for the hangar space. At least according to the Secretary of State, it was voluntarily withdrawn. There's two that didn't live within the airport authority. David Keitzman, the one that works for the community college, doesn't live in the airport authority. That's a requirement according to the Airport Authorities Act. Must reside within the territory of the authority. Each commissioner shall reside within the authority and shall continue to reside thereon during his term of office. There was another commissioner that did not reside within the authority and was an elected position in a different unit of local government, but he, as soon as we brought it to his attention, he resigned. So that's fine. He fixed the problem. We don't need to talk about him other than, give him kudos for resigning. That doesn't make him a bad person. It means he read the law and realized he couldn't sit there, unlike Mr. Foster. So with Mr. Foster, that's another unique situation. It's different than, he's alderman in Danville, which is different than working for a community college, because he also falls under the what is that? The Public Officers Prohibited Activities Act.
Yep. But he can't serve.
No alderman
Can't serve.
or no elected member of a municipality may be appointed to any position by the mayor
Exactly.
without first resigning from office, or taking a leave from office, or resigning from office.
He didn't do that. Did he?
Public Officer Prohibited Activities Act even says that violations of this are class 4 felonies.
But Steve didn't do that.
Any appointments made in violation of that section are void.
So he doesn't really belong on the airport authority.
No, he doesn't.
But what's he doing there now?
I don't know, but we're going to that next airport authority
Okay,
meeting,
we'll go.
and we're going to find out. Steve, if you're there, be prepared.
Very good.
Next, Edgar County Airport. Oh,
Them again?
Edgar County Airport. Yeah, the FAA punted their decision to make the Edgar County Airport eligible for grants to IDOT's
Chief Counsel.
one-page letter.
Now, this is an opinion.
I noticed I didn't say legal opinion because there's no case law down there. They
No.
point to a few statutes But, so what's the deal with this grant? A real short synopsis. You don't have to start with day one,
Well-
when the only thing on the grant application that was actually true was probably the phone number to the airport.
The current problem with the grant, on more than one level, is basically they are not in compliance with two state laws that I know of. One is they're accepting public documents and they're not recording those documents. The county clerk is not keeping those documents, so the public records are not being retained.
So that's a violation of Freedom of Information Act.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Records retention and a FOIA. That's a way to circumvent a FOIA request.
What records were those?
Those
Copies
are-
of insurance, that's a requirement of
A
signing a
lease
lease.
agreement. And you have to name the county as additionally insured. And you
That-
have to have $1 million of coverage.
That's a requirement in the lease.
There's a public document that is
So it's a document prepared for
Edgar County.
Edgar
Airport.
County because it has to name Edgar County as additionally insured, and they have to present it to the airport manager in order to sign a new lease.
That's the law.
So that document was prepared for the county as part of their lease requirements.
It's written in the lease. They're not to keep a copy of the insurance. It says so in the lease agreement.
Doesn't matter, it's still prepared for the county.
I know.
So they're violating FOIA, what else? We're gonna sue them
Well-
on that, by the way.
Okay, that's great. The other one is a grant insurance issue.
Yeah,
It talks about land zoning, and the short story there is there's Illinois law that requires that the land be zoned around the airport before the airport is expanded. That is a standalone law, and that's on the books, and that has not happened in Edgar County. There is no land zoning ordinance in Edgar County at the moment.
but
Wait a
they have air hazard resolution.
Well, I understand an ordinance has teeth in it, it's law, and a resolution is more like a, gosh, we're having a great day. There's no legal binding protections of landowners or the FAA's monies that have been spent in a resolution.
So this letter from IDOT,
Yeah.
Chief Counsel,
William,
basically, ignores the written County Airports Act.
what you see is an employee of the state of Illinois, an employee of IDOT, who is paid by IDOT, and he works in an IDOT office, and he's asked to defend somebody's position on zoning an airport, and he goes ahead and does what he's paid to do, and that's protect the position of the Department of Transportation Division of Aeronautics. He's not reading the law. He hasn't been to court to test his opinion, and his opinion is flawed. The law says land zoning ordinance. That's what it says.
So land is not the same as air?
Well, not in my book, John.
Really? Well, I was gonna frame that and put a big sticker under it that says land equals air. Because that's essentially what that says. That says
Yeah.
an air hazard resolution, which by the way has no binding effect.
Exactly.
You can't get written up for a resolution violation, is the same as land zoning ordinance. What's the FAA?
The
What's the
FAA,
FAA say about compatible land use and airspace protection?
go ahead, John. I'll let you do that one. I'll do the next one.
Oh, you'll do the next one? It shows a picture of a housing area at the end of a runway or close to an airport. Incompatible land use is one of the most serious problems affecting aviation today. Above is an aerial view of residential development near the Lancaster Airport in Pennsylvania. Zoning ordinances should be reviewed to determine what uses are currently permitted around the airport and to find out if there have been any recent changes in zoning. It is important that local land use planners become involved in the airport's master planning process. So one of the most serious problems affecting aviation today is use of land.
Yes. And there's an FAA advisory circular explaining that the only way to protect the federal tax dollar investment, and the land around the airport is to have the county implement land zoning ordinances. So the FAA is saying that's the position we should take. The documents you're reading from are FAA documents, and now we have the FAA thinking about it a second time.
What about case law? Oh, there is one.
Oh my,
It's amazing.
what would that be, John?
Wonder if IDOT General Counsel saw that.
I don't see it in here. He didn't mention it. He forgot, I guess.
Okay,
Go ahead.
there's case law, County of DuPage v. Harris from 1967. And it talks about the Airport Zoning Act. It presupposes, so the FAA has to be able to obtain jurisdiction over the property,
Okay,
according to grant assurances and everything that we currently know about FAA and federal money for airports. Which is why the state requires land zoning in order to expand or improve an airport.
that's the law.
Land zoning.
Ordinance.
In order for the FAA to have jurisdiction, it presupposes that the airport owner, which will be the county, or that IDOT, are complying with their land zoning requirements.
So you're implying here that the FAA doesn't have jurisdiction over the Edgar County Airport because there's no land zoning.
If, that's what I'm implying, if there is no zoning, and in that lawsuit it even says clearly the Aeronautics Act was not intended to and does not cover the whole subject matter of the act conferring zoning upon the counties. No repeal of other zoning to include the County Airports Act, County Airport Landing Fields Act, may be implied on these grounds. Consequently, no extended discussion required on whether the Aeronautics Act or the Airport Authority Zoning Act overrides or cancels out any other requirements. There is another requirement, and that is the County Airport Landing Field Act. It's right here. The appellate court were of the opinion that control over restricted landing areas conferred upon the Department of Aeronautics by the Aeronautics Act presupposes compliance with local zoning ordinances.
And that never happened in Edgar County.
There are none.
Then that means the FAA doesn't really have any authority. Is that what that says?
I say IDOT and Division of Aeronautics really has no authority because
This is case law.
yeah,
That's what you just read.
yeah. In those areas are purposely zoned for restricted landing areas, the department may then have assumed jurisdiction and control over the landing area as long as the local zoning ordinance are not violated. So there's nothing to violate. It's not zoned for restricted landing areas, obviously.
That's right.
Keyword land. And so if it presupposes compliance with zoning ordinances, so in order for IDOT to have jurisdiction, they assume, wrongly now, that the county has zoning and zoning is not being violated for the land.
Land zoning ordinance, what we're looking for.
I think we beat that dead horse.
Actually, that's the terminology used in the FAA documents, land zoning ordinances. So, what a stack of airport things. One airport after another, and now the Edgar County's right on top.
Again,
Again.
do they have a zoning, or do they have a letting for contracts out yet? Do you know when that's going to happen?
I don't know, John, I don't know, but don't have any.
We're actively pursuing to stop it one more time.
Well, we're trying to inform people what the law is. We're trying to get people to understand and to read Illinois law. And when they do, the questions are always, well, how, we don't have land zoning, we have a hazardous zoning ordinance. Once you become informed and read the law and look at the laws, you begin to realize that there are a number of things that are not in compliance with law or federal guidelines or policies.